Whether you're choosing between virtual and in-person learning during a pandemic, or more generally choosing between homeschool, public school, and private school options, making decisions about your children's schooling feels heavy. There are a lot of aspects to consider, and there are a lot of influences and voices weighing in on your decision. In this video, I'll give you a few things to consider to help you maneuver the process of making such important decisions. The first point that I want you to remember is that this is your decision to make. You get to make it. Instead of certain voices primarily influencing your choice, I want you to let your values, the areas that your family believes are most important in life, to primarily direct your decision making. And secondly, you and your neighbors, your friends, coworkers, and family members aren't making decisions in the same way, so it's okay if you make different decisions. You need to know and feel confident about what your decision is based on, which we're going to talk about. Try not to judge others or let the judgment of others cause you to question or feel guilty about the decision that you're making. The third thing that I want you to remember is that if you're co-parenting, it is vital to align prior to opening up this conversation with the kiddos. And that leads into some other points that are important to consider as you go through this process. You have to determine ahead of time how much input the kids are going to have in the decision, and then be clear with them about their involvement before you open up the conversation. Are you interested in hearing their opinions to help inform your own? Do they have a vote? Do the kids get veto power? How are you going to handle it if they disagree with the decision that you make? I want you to take time to name what is most important to your family. Apart from school, work, limitations, focus here on clearly putting language to your family's values. And then name your limitations. What are the truths or the facts of your particular circumstance that might constrain some of your options? Ensure that fear is identified accurately here and that it's not disguised and maybe impacting your decision in ways that you don't realize. As you're naming your limitations, recognize the potential supports that you have available that could address some of them. There might be other parents that you could team up with, extracurriculars that you could look into, and you might reach out to family that's willing to be involved or to help in needed ways. Then I want you to take time to examine both your values and limitations to determine their malleability and their importance. How much of a priority is each one for you? It is not unheard of for working parents to realize they value their time at home or maybe the flexibility in their schedule. Or on the flip side, a stay-at-home parent may choose to explore professional possibilities in order to afford an alternative school option. For children with particular sensitivities or specific learning needs, you may opt for a non-traditional learning model. It's okay to think outside of the box. In that same vein, you want to be sure to consider all of the options that you have based on your particular family context, which takes into account those values and limitations that we talked about. A classic problem-solving technique is to list all of the options, even the ones you don't think you're likely to choose, and then identify all of the positive and negative consequences associated with each. Evaluate each option based on the amount and the weight of those consequences that you've listed. Be sure to include the less apparent consequences that are more related to your family's values and your relationships, how different options may reinforce or violate what you feel is most important in your family's life. For example, if you have a family that highly values diversity, then you'll want to examine how your child's school experiences would impact their exposure to individual differences. Assuming that all of those options already took into account your values and your limitations, you can then choose the option that seems best suited for your family based on the associated consequences. However you go about making the decision, there's one last point that I want you to remember, and that's that these decisions are not final. Consistency is important, especially with kids, and we want to encourage perseverance, commitment, and follow-through. So once you make a school choice, stick with it for a reasonable and an agreed-upon amount of time, and then assess how things are going. Allow yourself and your child to make observations, both objective and subjective, about how things are functioning and how people are feeling. And then determine whether to stick with the decision for another agreed-upon amount of time, or go back to the problem-solving table and reevaluate the other options that you had identified. Remember that this is your choice to make. If there's anything that I can do to help you through this or any other process, please reach out anytime.